Hello world, and welcome to this edition of Tech on Fire with Blaze. I'm Blaze Stewart, an architect at Winelec, and today we're going to be discussing application and network security as we go through defense in depth and talk about all the layers it involves. To help get our heads around everything that goes into security, security experts have given us an analogy that really helps give some taxonomy to everything that goes into the domain of security. And this is really a broad topic. So this analogy is the idea of a castle. If you can think about a castle, it has multiple layers of security baked into that castle. So you have the outer moat, then you have an outer wall, then an inner wall, then you might have an inner cloister, then finally you have a keep that has the king, and that's where he stays. So everything is a layer upon a layer upon a layer, adding more security, ultimately securing the thing that's in the very center. Similarly, in network security, or in really security in general, you have this idea of defense in depth, and it draws upon the same idea where you have an inner thing that you're trying to protect with multiple layers of security going outwardly. For defense in depth strategy, the thing that we're probably trying to guard the most at the inner layer is data. And data would contain things like social security numbers and credit card numbers and all of that kind of sensitive data that could be very vulnerable if it was compromised. It could have serious implications for a lot of people. So we guard that one with multiple layers on top of it. On top of the data, we typically have an application layer. And this application layer is where application developers are probably most familiar because they deal with it day in and day out. And typically this involves dealing with roles, and those roles enable or disable certain features within a given application. On top of the application, we have the host. The host would be the environment in which an app runs. This could be a web server, runtimes, or an operating system, and you need to make sure that these things are secure and that they're patched and up to date whenever we're talking about applications that are hosted on those things. On top of application security, we typically have internal network security. Internal network security is accomplished by layering layers in your internal network such that you might have an externally facing, what we might call a DMZ in some cases, and that has a firewall between it and an internal network that has something like your database server. That's a very simple example and a classic pattern that we've used for internal networks. Obviously, on top of internal security, you have external security. Sometimes this is called perimeter security or perimeter defense, and it's probably the most common conception of security when you ask most people. It's where your big bad firewall that protects your internal network from all those external threats. But also one of the most overlooked functions of perimeter security is protecting your network from sending out malicious data or malicious intent. So if you get some kind of rogue agent or some kind of rogue program on your internal network, it can actually be prevented from going out to the external network by your perimeter defense if it's set up correctly. And this is one of the most overlooked features of it. If you have it protecting both outgoing and incoming traffic, you'll have a much more secure posture on your external security. Physical security is the last layer in this model, and it's oftentimes one of the most overlooked ones because we don't really think about physical security when we think about network security. But the physical security of your environment is very important, and cloud providers do a great job of doing this. Microsoft Azure, for instance, has multiple layers of physical protection around their data centers. They also have biometrics to ensure that people are authenticated when they enter the facility. They also have 24/7 monitoring to make sure that there isn't any malicious actor in the facility whenever things are going on. All of these things go into making something physically secure to make sure that the application is physically secure so someone just can't pick up a server and walk off with it. Policies and procedures are baked into all of these various layers that we've talked about. Now, policies and procedures themselves aren't really technical, but they're the things that those who hold technical people accountable for are going to be asking for whenever something happens. But policies and procedures are essentially the guidelines that are established, and then they're technically implemented in the actual layers that we've discussed. And the technical implementations shouldn't be ad hoc with security. Security should never be ad hoc. Rather, it should be very intentional, and you should have a very good understanding about what it is you're doing and then document that by way of a policy and a procedure. That way, when someone asks, you can show them the policy and procedure that you're following, and then you can show them the technical implementation where that's implemented. Well, this wraps up our discussion for today on Defense in Depth, where we talked about various layers inside of a robust security model. Next time, we're going to be talking about Layer 7 and Layer 4 applications where we can do defense in depth with the OSI model. And we're going to talk about the technical details of how those work. So stay tuned next time for some more technical content from Tech on Fire. If you like this content, please consider visiting us online at www.wintellect.com, and there you can find about services that Wintellect offers, including training and consulting services. Also, please consider subscribing to this channel by clicking on the subscribe button and clicking the bell icon to get notifications when new content becomes available, and also comment down below. You can also follow me on Twitter at @TheOneMule, and also follow Wintellect on Twitter at WintellectNow or at Wintellect. We are constantly posting things about Azure-related technologies and things related to software development. You can also reach us by email at consulting@wintellect.com. Until next time, thank you.